Good morning, students. How are you all? Hope you all are doing great. So we have finished our biological classification. That was the second chapter in the botany, right? So today I have taken some questions from biological classifications only in order to know that how much you have got the concept. So let us start with the questions. Number 1, cyanobacteria or the blue-green algae are, yes, unicellular only, colonial, filamentous only, or unicellular, colonial and filamentous all. So we have already discussed in our previous lecture that cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae can be unicellular, colonial or filamentous, right? So the answer is unicellular, colonial and filamentous, all the three, right? Yes. Let us mark it. All right. Moving ahead, question number 2 is, cyanobacteria are only freshwater, only marine, only terrestrial, aquatic and terrestrial. So they can be both. They can be aquatic, they can be terrestrial. Is that clear? Moving ahead, question number 3. Which ones form bloom in polluted water mostly? Yeah. So basically, must remember the cyanobacteria are capable of making water blooms in the polluted water. Yes, cyanobacteria make algal bloom. What do we say? Algal bloom, which make the water body appear green, dense, matte on the surface of water body, and that green bloom or the algal bloom is made up of cyanobacteria. Yes, is that clear? Moving ahead, some of the cyanobacteria can fix atmospheric nitrogen in specialized cells. We have already discussed, I hope you guys must remember it, that was heterocyst, right? It is also shown in your NCERT in the nostoc. They have represented with the labeling a heterocyst, that is a site for nitrogen fixation. Is that clear? Question number 5th, heterocystous cyanobacteria. Yes, only nostoc, only Anabaena, both nostoc and Anabaena. Yes, vibrae do not have heterocyst. So both nostoc and Anabaena have heterocyst. I have also given the example in your class while teaching nitrogen fixation in nostoc and Anabaena. Cyanobacteria are present. Heterocyst is also present there. The group of organisms oxidizing various inorganic substances such as nitrates, nitrites and ammonia using the released energy, yes, they are simply called as chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria that we have discussed while learning cyanobacteria. Is that clear? Yes, because they are using what? Nitrates, nitrites, ammonia, right? And using these substances, they are generating their ATP. So because they are generating their ATP from some chemical substances and they are also autotrophic as they can perform photosynthesis, so the answer is chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria. Is that clear? Yes. Question number 7 is, which of the following play a great role in recycling nutrients like NPS? Again, the answer is again the answer is chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria. Yes, correct. Moving ahead. Cyanobacteria have chlorophyll A similar to that of plants including green algae. Correct. Distinct from the chlorophyll of plants, bacterial chlorophyll or bacterial rhodopsin. So the correct answer is chlorophyll A similar to that of the advanced plants. Okay, we do have discussed this point also. The majority of bacteria are photoautotrophs, chemoautotrophs, chemoheterotrophs. They are simply heterotrophs and of chemoheterotrophs type. Right? Yes. Bacteria participate in many industrial commercial processes. Yes, do they? Yes. Nitrogen fixation in legume roots. Yes, they do so. Yes. Disease producing in plants, animals and human beings. Yes, they also do so. So the answer is all of this. Is that clear? Yes, question number 11, that is in the sequence from your module, it will be question number 6. That's why it is labeled here as question number 6. Archaeobacteria differ from other bacteria in having definite nuclear structure? No, because they are also prokaryotes, so they cannot have the definite structure. Cell wall structure? Yes, that is correct. Adaptability of cytoplasmic concentration? No. Some membranous organelle? No, that is not found in any of that, right? So the answer is cell wall structure. Is that clear? Yeah, all right. Survival of archaeobacteria in extreme conditions is achieved by cell wall structure, adaptability in cytoplasm, some membranous cell organelle, all of these? No. So the answer is only cell wall structure. Okay, moving ahead. Which of the following statement is or are false? Okay, let us see. Methanogens are present in the alimentary canal of several ruminant animals like cows and buffaloes. Yes, we have discussed that they are found in gut of cattle. So this is the correct statement. Methanogens are responsible for production of biogas and dung of ruminant of animals. That is also absolutely correct, because methanogens are capable of producing methane, and that methane is a major constituent of biogas, right? That is why it is correct. Methanogens are present in the gut of several non-ruminant? No. Third is incorrect statement. Basically, cows and buffaloes are ruminants only. Okay. So the answer is both 1 and 2. Is that clear? I hope you guys will be able to recall the concepts that we have studied in our previous lectures. Most of the bacteria they are heterotrophs, right? Yes. Which is not correct about methanogens? They are archaeobacteria, correct. They live in marshy areas, that is also correct. Methane is their preferred carbon source. Actually, they make the methane, that is not a carbon source, they actually produce it, they do not use it. Next is, they are present in the gut of several ruminants like cows, buffaloes, and they produce biogas from the dung of the animals. So this statement is also correct. So the incorrect statement is the third. Methane is their preferred carbon source. That is not the carbon source, rather they produce it. So the incorrect statement is methane is their preferred carbon source. Is that clear to all of you? Okay. Most of the bacteria, most of the bacteria are autotrophs, chemoautotrophs, heterotrophs, parasites, that we already discussed. Okay. I hope we have done with all the questions. Which of the following statement is wrong about archaeobacteria? They are in some of the most harsh habitats. Yes, that is correct. They are recently evolved. No. They are not recently evolved. They are the most ancient inhabitants. Cell wall is peptidoglycan-less. Correct. Fourth is they unlike other bacteria. Yes, that is also correct. So the incorrect is they are newly evolved. No, they are not newly evolved. Okay. Which of the following areas conditions would be favored by the thermoacidophiles? That is hot sulfur springs, the stomach of many herbivores? No. Hot alkaline? No. Deep sea volcanic? No. The answer will be hot sulfur springs. Why? Because hot sulfur springs, temperature will be high and the conditions will be acidic. And the environment needed by thermoacidophiles is acidic plus high temperature. Is that clear? Yes. So answer is hot thermal springs. Okay. It should be hot thermal or sulfur springs. Okay. So that's all about the questions that we were about to discuss. And now I am going to start with the new chapter, that is morphology in flowering plants, and that will be the final chapter for CBC, not for entire CBC, only from botany. Okay. So this is the final chapter that I am going to discuss in the botany, that is morphology in flowering plants. So make sure you guys are attending all the classes without any skip and without any lag. Be on time in the class. And one more thing, that I will try to finish it as early as, not today, obviously it will take 2 days, right? So be on time, don't skip, and complete the chapter within class itself. Okay? All right. Morphology in flowering plants. Okay, what do you understand by flowering plants? Yes, any idea? See, you must be aware that flowering plants are the one which are capable of bearing or which are capable of giving flowers. So you can question me or you can ask me, ma'am, so there are some plants which do not produce flowers? Yes, there are some primitive plants, or you can say there are certain plants which are not able to bloom or to give flowers, and such flowers are not placed in the category of flowering plants, and the one which can produce are simply called as angiosperms, or we commonly call it as flowering plants. So in this chapter we will be talking about the morphology, the external appearance, right? Yes, the external appearance of flowering plants, not any other plants, because you might be knowing there are some primitive plants like algae, like bryophytes, like pteridophytes, and even gymnosperms. Let me tell you, these 4 type of plants are not able to produce any flower. Okay, but the angiosperms, the last category is what? Angiosperms. These are the most advanced type of plants which are capable of giving rise to flowers. Is that clear? So we are interested here to know the structure, the appearance, the morphology of the flowering plants called as angiosperms. Is that clear? Okay. So let us start with the morphology of the flowering plants. First of all, what do you understand by morphology? Study of external structure and the discussion of appearance of an organism. It can be for the plants, it can be for the animal. So study of external structure and appearance of an organism is simply called as what? Morphology. And here we will be talking about the morphology of flowering plants. Right? Okay. Now, let us talk about what is the need or why do we study morphology? Why do we study morphology? Yes. See, we have already classified organisms on the basis of morphology. Like in the previous chapter we studied, Aristotle has classified organisms on the basis of external appearance or morphology. So while looking into the morphology, like we will be able to know more about the plants, and it would be easy for us to classify them more scientifically, right? Also, morphology helps us to know about their adaptations for habitat, adaptations for protection, adaptation for extreme condition survival, right? So why do we study morphology? Here are some points to be mentioned. Why do we study? The answer is in order to develop a better understanding towards adaptations shown by plants. Adaptations shown by plants. Number 2 is what? What are the adaptations? Adaptations to survive in a habitat, right? Adaptations to survive in a habitat. Number 3 is what? Adaptations for protection, adaptations for protections, also adaptations to survive in some stressful condition, right? Adaptations to overcome unfavorable condition or stressful condition, unfavorable condition. Is that clear? So that means by talking about morphology in flowering plants, like we will be able to understand how the plants will be able to overcome stressful condition or any unbearable or unfavorable condition if the plant faces it. Second is what? Adaptations for protection. Like if there is some unfavorable condition, how can they protect themselves or how can they tide the unfavorable conditions? Number third is survive in their natural habitat. What are the adaptations? Are they bearing thorns? Are they bearing tendrils? Are they bearing thick cuticle? All that, right? Yes. So we will be talking about these adaptations in the morphology in flowering plants. So let us talk about, if we say about the morphology, what are the parts that we will be able to see in a angiosperms. Okay? Alright. Fine. So let us draw a plant first. Yeah. Bearing the leaves. Yes. Bearing the leaves. Yeah. Bearing the underground part of the plant, that is the root. Yes. That is the root. Alright. Then the aerial part possess what? The flower, or the flower like this. Also it might possess what? The bud part. Okay. Then it can also have some branches bearing leaves that we have already drawn. Yeah, these are the leaves that we will be talking about, the leaf part also. And we might see it can bear fruit as well. It can also bear fruit, right? So let us label, this is the root part, this is the stem part, this is the leaf, this is the bud, the flower and the fruit. Is that clear? So my dear students, in this morphology of flowering plants, the structures which we can see externally are these many. And let me tell you, the structure which is located underground, of the root, soil, it is simply called as root system. We have labeled the root, but the part which is under the ground is called as root system, and the part which is above the ground is simply called as the shoot system. Is that clear? It is simply called as the shoot system. So one by one we will be talking about each the system. Okay, so let us start with the root or the root system. First of all, we will be talking about the underground part, and then we will talk with the aerial part. Okay, so let's start with the root or the root system. Okay, yes. So roots are the part, if I talk about a seed, see, if this is the seed and it's developed to grow or germinate, so let me tell you, the part which develops into root, is called the radicle, and this is called as the plumule. The part which develops into the shoot system is simply called as the plumule, and the one which develops into the root system is called as radicle. So let us write root system develops from the radical part of embryo, that is the seed. Okay, the root system develops from the embryo part, that is the radical part. This is what the radical, this will develop into the root. Is that clear? Yes. So the radical will give rise to the root and the plumule will give rise to the entire shoot system. Okay, what else we can talk about the root? Yes, see, the root is the underground part of plant. Is that clear? Root is the underground part of the plant. Okay, yes. Does it grows towards gravity or away from gravity? See, the root is growing towards gravity. The root is growing towards gravity, so we can say it is a positive geotropic structure as it grows towards gravity. We can mention it here. Positive geotropic means towards gravity. Towards gravity. Right? Number 4 is what? Number 4 is, it is, because it is going away from sunlight, so we can say it is a negatively phototropic. Okay, it is a negative phototropic structure. Okay, phototropic structure, right? And then we will say, as it is underground, it is in contact with the soil, so we will see it will have a thimble-like structure, or it is protected by a thimble-like or cap-like structure called as root cap. But I am not going to mention that here, because this was all about the internal nature, how it grows, where it grows, underground part of the plant, positive geotropic, a negative phototropic structure, right? And the last is, it develops from the radical. I think we have already mentioned. It do not bear any node-like structure, node or internode. We will see why. Because node and internode are actually present on the stem, which bear branches and leaves, so that is not required with the root. That's why it is so. Is that clear? So that's all about the general characters of root. Now I'll be talking about its function. Okay? Yes. Please note it down. Okay. So let us talk about the functions of root now. We have started with the root system. Okay. Now, role or simply functions. Role or function of root. Right? So, what are the primary functions of root? If I say, what is the primary function of root? The primary function of root is simply the absorption of water and mineral. Number 1 is absorption of water and mineral from the soil. Is that clear? I think you guys are already aware about this function, that is absorption of water and mineral from the soil. But you will wonder to know, apart from these functions, root also performs several other functions. What are they? Like they hold the plant from the ground. They hold the plant from the soil. If root will not be there, then the plant, the tiny plants may wipe out from that particular area and can move to some other area. Is that clear? So they also play an important role in anchorage. That is to hold the plant from that particular area. Right? Number 3 is what? They also play role in the storage. Yes. Have you ever seen some root modified into swollen structure and having some minerals? Yes, anybody? Yes, you must remember or you must be able to recall. For example, see, what structure is that? I am not going to name it, but you must remember it. It's an orange color structure growing underground and bearing leaves above the ground. Bearing leaf above the ground like this. See. Yeah, I think you guys would have remembered it very well. Yes. Very thin leaf like structure. Yes. Yes, this is what? Carrot. Okay. And carrot is a modified root for storage only. Is that clear? So this carrot is what? This swollen structure is modified for storage. This is modified for storage. So that is what I am talking about, that apart from absorption of water and minerals from the soil, roots are also modified to perform some other function such as storage, synthesis of some plant hormones, anchorage. Sometimes they can also help the plant to overcome the stressful condition. Alright? So I am going to mention it here. Number 2 is provides anchorage. Provides anchorage to the plant and allows to hold with ground or simply soil. Is that clear? Number 2 is provides anchorage. Okay. Number 3 is storage of reserve food material. Number 3 is storage for reserve food material. Yes. I have already given one example to you guys. Another can be even radish. Okay. And in addition to this, you might be aware or you must be knowing that like in our body, there is some synthesis of hormones like the growth hormone, the endocrine gland secretions, the hormones, thyroid secretions, adrenal secretions, okay, insulin, pancreatic secretion like that. Likewise, the plants are also capable of producing the hormones which regulate a wide variety of functions. So, you know, the roots are also site for synthesis of some plant hormones. So, I am going to mention it here. 4th, site for synthesis of plant hormones. Site for synthesis of plant hormones. Okay, plant hormones, or they are also called as, plant hormones are also called as plant growth regulators. What they are called? Plant growth regulators. Is that clear? So these were the functions that is shown by the root or the root system. Is that clear? Okay. Now let us discuss about the type of leaves depending on their structure and the function they perform. Type of root depending on their origin. Okay. Alright. So next heading is type of roots. Types of root on the basis of their origin. On the basis of their origin, we have 3 type of root, and what are they? Number one is the tap root. Number 1 is the taproot. Number 2 is the fibrous root. Okay. And number 3 is adventitious root. Okay. Yeah. So let us understand how this taproot is different from that of fibrous root and is further different from that of adventitious roots. So put the heading for the taproot, adventitious roots and the fibrous roots. Okay? Yes. Types of root: taproot, fibrous root and adventitious root. I am going to explain in the next slide. See, number one is the taproot. Okay, let us make 3 columns over here. Number 2 is the fibrous root. Okay, let us not draw the partitions because I might take more space. Okay, number 1 is taproot. Let us write about taproot. See, the taproot arises from the radical only. The taproot arises from the radical only, as we just discussed that the root arises from the radical part of the seed. Now let us see how it look like. See, if this is the ground level and if this is the root, so the taproot somewhat look like this. It has the primary root. Okay, these are the secondary root. Then they further bear the branches like this. Okay, yeah, they further bear the branches like this, root hairs or the lateral roots. So this is what? Primary root. Okay, then this is what? The secondary root. Okay, then further on this, these were the tertiary root, and over it there were hair-like structure. There were hair-like structure which were the root hairs. This was the tertiary root and these thin hairs are the root hairs. Okay, so you can see there is a system: primary root, secondary root, tertiary root. Third one is the tertiary root. These are what? Tertiary root, and then bearing fine hairs, that is root hair. So such system where a main branch of root is going and then bearing further branchlets or the root hairs or the rootlets, such system is called as taproot, which arises from the base, from the radical, right? Okay, such type of root system is found in case of radish, okay, carrot, okay, turnip, and let me tell you in note that majority of dicot plants, what is that? Majority of dicots shows what? Taproot type of root system. Okay, majority of dicot shows taproot system. Is that clear? Yes. Now number 2 is your fibrous root, which arise from the base of stem. Let us understand how. Number 2 is fibrous root. Fibrous root. Simply the fibrous root, write down, arises from the fibrous root arise from the base of stem. Okay? Yeah. Let us see how it look like. Okay. See. This is the soil level or the ground level, and if this is the plant, so it arises from the base of stem like this tuft. This is tuft of root hairs. Okay, so from where it is arising? From the base of stem. Are you getting my point? So fibrous root is the one which arises from the base of stem, and it is in the form of tuft of root hairs. For example, it is seen in case of grasses, example wheat, example your maize, right? But you can mention in note like there, you can note it here, or you can mention that majority of, what is that? Majority of monocots. Yes, majority of monocot plants have what type of system? It is again the monocots have fibrous type of root system. Is that clear? Very, very important that all the or majority of taproots have the majority of dicots have the taproot system, and majority of monocots have the fibrous root system. Is there any confusion? You can ask, not today, if then you can ask tomorrow, or you can drop your questions in the comment section. Is that clear? Okay, and you must be aware that the fibrous root system is usually short-lived. How is that? It is short-lived, and my dear students, it is important to recall wheat as an example. Yes, wheat. Why wheat? Because as per your textbook, they have mentioned wheat, and we can also mention paddy. Okay, yes, we will see paddy, wheat, or majority of monocot shows which type of root system? Fibrous root system. Now we are only left with the adventitious root system. Number third is adventitious root system. So I am going to start with that. Yeah. So one arises from the base of the stem, one arises from the base of the stem, one arises from the radicle, one arises from the base of the stem, one arises from the radicle. Then what about the third one? Adventitious root. Very, very important. Most asked question from the morphology. What are adventitious root and from where do they arise? So I am going to start with that. Okay, see. Adventitious roots are the one which arise from any other part except a radicle. What did I say? Adventitious roots are the one which arise from any other part except the radicle. Okay, moving ahead, let us define adventitious root are, write down, they arise from any other part, except the radicle. They arise from any other part except the radicle. Okay, yes. For example, shown in case of plant Monstera. Okay, shown in case of plant Monstera, also in case of grasses. Is that clear? So adventitious roots are the one which arise from any other part except the radical, and we can see they can be of different types depending on the type of need. The roots can be modified in order to perform different functions. So we can discuss that, but not exactly the adventitious root. We can discuss the modification of root in different ways. For example, we can see modification of root. Modification of root. Okay. Number one modification of root is for support. It is for support. You might have seen for support, if there is a sugar cane, if there is a sugar cane stem growing like this, like this, like this, and like this. So there are some small rootlets arising from the lower internodes. These roots are simply called as, these are called as stilt roots. What they are called? Stilt roots. And they are mainly for support. Is that clear? In case of sugar cane. In case of sugar cane, the roots can be modified for support. Likewise, you might have seen the banyan tree. A thick banyan tree has a thick trunk like this, okay, and bearing a huge canopy, like this. You might have seen a huge canopy like this, and the roots hanging from the banyan tree. The roots hanging from the banyan tree are meant for the support. They are simply called as prop roots. They are simply called as prop roots, which are also meant for support. Is that clear? So you might wonder that apart from the absorption of water and minerals, roots also perform several functions such as stilt roots for support in sugarcane as well as maize also. In case of maize and sugarcane, there is stilt roots. In prop roots are found in banyan tree. Okay, this is what banyan tree. And I am very much interested to tell you about one more plant, although I am not going to tell you much about this because that is not mentioned right now in your course. But you know, there is a root, there is a type of root, you know, which play role even in photosynthesis. Do you know what I am telling? Root playing role in, sorry, not in photosynthesis, play role in the respiration. Photosynthesis can be performed by the stem part, not by the root, because they require sunlight. So there are certain roots which play role in, you know, respiration. What is that? Respiration. Yeah. And what are the roots which play role in respiration? They are called? They are simply called as pneumatophores. You just need to remember the name which has role in respiration. Another root which has role in respiration, the name of the plant is rhizophora. If you are able to remember it, that's very good. If you are not able to remember it, that is not also a problem, because you are definitely going to learn about it in your detailed chapter of +1, 11th class. Okay. So these were the modifications of root in order to support stilt roots and prop roots. In order to respire, simply pneumatophores in case of rhizophora. Although this is not that important, if you are able to recall it, it's well and good. Not able to recall it, that's also not a problem. Alright? Okay, now let us talk about these phases of root, or simply the zones of the taproot. Okay? Yes. So, shall I move with the next page? Simply regions of the root or the phases of root. Yeah. Regions of the root. Okay, regions of the root or simply phases or zones. Okay, yes. Now let me draw the root first. Yeah. This is the soil surface. This is the root. Yeah. And this is the root cap, whereas this is the zone of meristematic activity. Let me draw root cap with some other color. Yeah, this is what the root cap. Yeah, simply this is what the zone of meristematic activity. Let us label it zone of meristematic activity, zone of meristematic activity. Yes, the bottommost part is the root cap, followed by the zone of meristematic activity, followed by the zone of elongation. See, next is the zone of elongation. The cell will be getting enlarged in this region, and this is simply called as what? Zone of elongation, right? And number fourth and the last one is zone of maturation. So let us write that also. This is zone of maturation. This is what? Zone of maturation, where it possesses what? Root hairs. Where it possesses root hairs like this. Okay, yes. And we can also label it as the root hairs. So my dear students, you can see here that the root has different zones or regions of root. Number one is the root cap. Okay. Number two is zone of meristematic activity. Okay, where the cells would be dividing and adding new cells to the root. Yes. Number three is what? Zone of elongation, means the new cells will be adding in this zone of meristematic. And what is the function of root cap? To protect the tender part of the root. Meristematic is the one where the new cells be added to the length of the root. Yes, and the cells which are formed, it will be undergoing elongation or the growth phase in the zone of elongation, whereas this is the zone of maturation. This is the zone of maturation, where the cells would be undergoing some specific diversification in order to absorb water, minerals and etc. They will be undergoing the phase of differentiation. That is why it is called a zone of maturation, and also considered as zone of differentiation. Is that clear? So these are the phases. Number one is root cap. Number two is zone of meristematic activity. Number three is zone of elongation. And number fourth is zone of maturation. Is that clear? Yes. Now let us describe each of the following zone. Root cap. Yes, write down about root cap. It is a thimble-like structure. It is a thimble-like structure which protects which protects the tender part of soil. It is a thimble-like structure which protects the tender part of, not soil, tender part of root from soil. Is that clear? It protects the tender part of root from the soil. Okay? Simple and easy to understand. Always the cap has role in protection only. Right? So root cap, it is a thimble-like structure which protects the tender part of root from the soil. This is about the root cap. Okay? The structure next to the root cap is zone of meristematic activity. Let us understand that. Yes. 2 is zone of meristematic activity. Okay, what does it do? Please write down. It is the site of cell division. It is the site of cell division, adding new cells to the root, and is responsible for the growth of root system. Is that clear? And what are the type of cells present over here? The cells are meristematic in nature with a dense cytoplasm and prominently located nucleus. Okay. So the cells in this zone are with dense cytoplasm, and prominent nucleus. Okay, cells are with dense cytoplasm and prominent nucleus. Okay, yes. Question number 3, point number 3. These are actively dividing cells. These are actively dividing cells. Okay, all right. Phase number 3 was what? Zone of elongation. So what do you think? See, the bottommost was for protection. Number 2 is adding new cells. So number 3 will be its growth or elongation. So let us understand. Number 3 is zone of elongation. Okay. Zone of elongation, and this is responsible for simply expansion of the newly added cells, by loosening of the cell wall. See, you must be aware of this thing, my dear students. If there is growth of the plant cell, if there is enlargement, if there is elongation, so the cell wall must be distorted. Why? Because if elongation has to take place, then the boundary must be disturbed. That is why expansion of the newly added cells by loosening of the cell walls for elongation. Is that clear? Yes. Okay. Moving ahead, last but not the least, and you must add one more point. See, zone of elongation is proximal to zone of Meristematic activity. You must be aware of this thing that every zone which is next to the previous zone, we call it as proximal, right? Zone of elongation is proximal to meristematic activity, and zone of your maturation is proximal to the zone of elongation. Okay, so let us write that also over here. Fourth is zone of maturation. Zone of maturation, that is proximal to, proximal to the zone of maturation. Proximal to the zone of, not maturation, proximal to the zone of elongation. Zone of maturation proximal to the zone of elongation, and because it adds hair cells, it adds root hairs on this zone, so it is also called as zone of proliferation. Okay, zone of maturation or zone of differentiation. Zone of differentiation, adding new cells to the root hairs. Is that clear? Proximal to the zone of elongation, it is also called as zone of differentiation, and adding new cells to the root hairs, or simply you can say they modify themselves to perform several other functions. That is why we call them zone of maturation or zone of differentiation. Alright, now you can go through the concept, and if there is any doubt, if there is any confusion, you can ask me. Basically, the zone of maturation or the root hair zone has the function to absorb water and minerals. It has function to absorb water and minerals. Is that clear? That's all about the phases of the root. Now the next thing that we are going to discuss is about stem. All right. Okay. Okay. Then we will move on the stem part. Yes. Now the stem part of the plant. The stem part of the plant. How do you define stem? Yes. So till now we have covered what is root, from where does it arise, what does it perform, what are the functions of root, and what are the phases of root, like the bottom part root cap, followed by meristematic zone, followed by the zone of elongation, and followed by the zone of maturation. Right? Then we also discussed that we have three types of roots. We have three types of roots. Number one, the taproot, which arises from the radicle only. Number two, the one arises from the base of stem, that is the fibrous root. And number three, that arise from any other part except the radicle. Is that clear? And that was called as adventitious root. Okay, my dear students. So that was all about the root part. Now we are moving towards the ascending part of the plant. Which part? The ascending, which was growing above the ground. So let us move back to the same plant that we have drawn at the beginning of the chapter, and that is this diagram. Okay, so we are done with the underground part. Right? And now I am going to start with the shoot system. Okay, yes, Alright. So, the shoot system arises from which part, my dear students? The shoot system arises from which part? From the plumule. The shoot system arises from which part? From the plumule. Okay? Yes? Let us see. Yeah. This is the plumule which gives rise to the shoot system or simply the stem, and then we will see the stem bears the nodes, internodes, which is to bear branches, leaves, etc. Also, the primary function of stem is to conduct water and minerals from root to the upside. Also, food to the leaf to the different part of the body. That is also the function of your stem only. And it arises from which part? It arises from plumule. Is that clear? Also, in the early age of plant, if you see the stem, it will be green or greenish in appearance, which later on the aging of the plant, it gets converted into the brown color. Is that clear? So let us talk about the ascending part of the stem, that is the stem. Ascending part of the plant, that is the stem. Okay. Alright, stem. Write down. Write down. It is the ascending and aerial part of plant which grows above the soil. It is the ascending aerial part of the plant which grows above the soil. Is that clear? Number 2. Number 2 is what? Number 2 is it arises from the plumule. It arises from the plumule, and that plumule is the upper part of the seed. Okay. Third is it is primarily green in color, which later turns into brown in appearance on aging, which later turns brown in appearance or brownish in color. Okay, and the primary function of the stem is what? It bears branches. What else it bears? It bears branches, leaves, fruits, flowers. All are possessed by what structure? The stem only. So it bears branches, it bears flowers, fruits, and even leaves are also possessed by the stem itself. Okay? Yes? So it bears branches, flowers, fruits and leaves. Yes. Now the next question is, from where does the stem bears these structure? Is there some specialized structure located on the stem? So very, very important, actually stem bears some condensed meristematic cells called as what? Nodes. And these nodes give rise to branches, maybe flower, maybe fruits or leaves. So let us discuss. It consists of specialized structure called as nodes and internodes. It consists of nodes and internodes to bear branches. It consists of nodes and internodes to bear branches, leaves, etc. Is that clear? Yes. So let us see how these nodes and the internodes look like. See, if I draw a stem like this, which is green in color, if this is a stem, then in the mid they have these nodes. These are the nodes. These are the nodes which can bear, they can bear branches and leaves, etc. Is that clear? And the distance between two nodes, is simply called as internode. Is simply called as internode. These are what? Internode. Okay. Yeah. These structures are internode. The distance between, what is internode? Internode is what? Distance between two nodes is simply called as the internodes. Is that clear? And my dear students, these internode only bear the branches, stem, buds, etc. Okay. Now what are the functions of the stem? Yes, what are the functions? Number one is to bear the branches, buds and fruits only. And what is number two function? To conduct water, minerals and photosynthesis to different part of your plant body. So let us mention it here. Number one is bear branches, fruits, flower, etc. To bear branches, fruits, flowers, etc. from the nodes of the stem, right? And number two is what? It conducts water and mineral from root to the shoot system of plant body. Is that clear? And my dear students, not only this, you must be aware the food, the photosynthesis which is synthesized in the leaves, that is also transported to the various part of plant body via stem part only. Okay? Yes, because if food is being synthesized at the leaf part somewhere here or here, that is also required to be utilized in the different part of the plant body. So that is transported via stem and branches, etc. only. Is that clear? Now, depending on the requirement, depending on the need of the plant, like the way roots were also modified in order to perform respiration, in order to perform storage, in order to perform the organ for overcoming the stressful condition. Likewise, the stem is also modified to perform so many functions. Okay, but before that, I would like to discuss the modifications, but not in today's class. That I will be starting in tomorrow's class. All right. So now I am going to give you one question on the screen related to the stem, and I hope you guys will be able to answer it. Yes. Question number 1. Which of the following is incorrect for root? Number one, it is underground part of plants. B, it is used to store minerals. Number third, it is geotrophic in nature. And the last is it possess nodes and internodes. Yes. So I am talking about root, not the stem. Yes. What do you think? The right answer is yes, they are underground. Yes, they are able to store minerals. Yes, they are geotrophic in nature, but they do not possess nodes and internodes because that is the function of stem. So the incorrect answer is